Hey everybody.
Yeah, hi Avet. Hello everyone. And this is ThatCrypto from the underground. And we want to talk today about the blockchain forensics, as those surveillance companies like to call themselves. When in fact it's blockchain surveillance, as free Bitcoiners like to call those companies. And how it's done, what you need to know to protect your privacy, why it's important, and so on.
And why those companies even trying to do that? Probably they have some benefits.
Well, they run the business because there are some entities that buy this information from them. Those entities are governments and law enforcement, which is the same.
So many times people ask like, oh, am I so interested for a government so they do surveillance against myself? Actual answer is yeah. Yeah, government can and they do, and they even buy such an information from the third parties, and that third parties can do the business based on that. So this information is important.
Well, yeah, as we know, like law enforcement agencies, they are not allowed actually to do the mass surveillance, at least in the Western democracies. And what they do in the United States, it's also well known that law enforcement, they buy information from the marketing companies. So all the companies that run apps on your phone, they collect lots of data, and nothing prevents law enforcement from buying those
information.
That information on immigrants, for example.
Yeah.
That cross the
borders.
U.S.-Mexican border. The Bitcoin is, well, it was perceived as an anonymous system. However, it's not anonymous. All transactions are publicly available. The only thing that's anonymous in Bitcoin is that there are no names, identities not attached to transactions. However, every time you try to expose your identity while making a transactions, when you buy Bitcoin, for example, on a centralized exchange that does the KYC, know your customer, they identify you, so the exchange knows that that particular address
belongs to
you, and then all the consequent transactions are publicly available. Well, Bitcoin has a few features that kind of try to mitigate this loophole in privacy, and actually in white paper Bitcoin Satoshi was writing about this stuff. The difference between banking and Bitcoin is that in the banking system, banks know who they are, what transactions are, and actually what the purpose of transactions. Like everything is known to the bank. However, to the public, it's safeguarded by the bank itself. In Bitcoin, all transactions are publicly available. However, there's no connection between the
person,
Bitcoin address and the identity of a person.
And that's where these companies are trying to actually find out. They're trying to make the bridges between the transactions happened and the person itself in a certain way. Probably IP is one of the best examples of that, because we're all using certain devices, and IP is visible.
So the major question that actually I've been thinking a lot, like for a long time, and there is no clear answer to that. Why is privacy important? Even Edward Snowden was trying to explain. A lot of people are trying to explain why it's important. However, I haven't managed to convince anyone, any person around me, that privacy is important, and the major when they say it's not, so the major argument, they say, like, if I am not doing anything wrong, why I should care about my privacy? Let everyone know what I'm doing.
What about to think this way? If somebody pay for something to get it, for that something is important because they spend money on that. Hence, if government, for example, pay money to get that information, we can assume that information is important, even if the exact person has done nothing wrong.
Well, this information is important because the law enforcement are looking for the criminals, and yeah, this is why they pay for this information, to protect the security of the country and the safety of all the citizens. However, actually, today I came up with interesting explanation, and it's based on in evolution, like long-term evolution history. It's 4 billion years. So what happens? Actually, there are a bunch of videos on YouTube when people are doing something crazy. They're dancing like there's no tomorrow, as they're singing, and that actually looks ugly. And they don't know someone's filming until the moment that they see there's someone, and they change their behavior all of a sudden because they feel embarrassed. They don't. They kind of want to conform to the norms of the society that's around them. So basically, and this is true for any group, any society that exists. So there are norms that the members of this group and the society should abide to fit in. So there are like certain rules, and the same thing goes in evolution. Evolution is a random, well, part of the evolution is a random process. The genetic mutations happen randomly, and if they deviate away from the normality, to the center of the group, which is usually 80% roughly, according to the Pareto principle. So 80% of the population or the members of the group, they kind of stabilize the group itself, and they look for different deviation. And when they see something is not normal, they try to change this people's behavior or how they look, and if they deviate too much, they probably die. However, out of those 20%, the genetic code or the ideas that goes to for everything, some of them they manage to change what we perceive as norm, if that change is more beneficial for individuals and the group in altogether. And we all know that evolution happens. We evolved from a single cellular organism, and now we the dominant species on the planet, and we built spaceships, and it didn't happen in 1 minute. So it all went through tiny changes. There was pressure from the majority of the group. However, those individuals that were strong enough, they managed to
change the behavior of the whole group,
divert the group from their status quo, and they become better. Sometimes it goes the wrong way, but eventually it goes back to
the certain normal.
It's not normal, I would say, to the path that's beneficial for everyone or the species. Well, an example would be like the Soviet Union, that people steered away. They had an experiment for 70 years, then they figured out that it's no good. So, and this is the idea of privacy actually here. If you have an idea that's different from what's normal, you don't really want to express it, because the society will
might not accept. Nicely speaking,
this is normal. This is actually their role of majority of the society, to attack everything that's not normal. This is how they weed out everything that's bad. All the new ideas that's bad, they kind of eliminate them, and only the ideas that are strong enough
to stay.
They can fight back the majority, the norm, because if this idea is so beneficial that everyone can see what's there. So only then the entire society will steer into that direction. However, it will be attacked. All ideas are attacked all the time. And if you are in private, you can try to kind of...
You are doing experiment for yourself.
Test your idea with a friend, with a small group, just try to understand, try to develop it. However, if you know that you are watched at any moment, then...
Yeah, and surveillance probably won't do it.
Yeah, so you will self-censor. And that it's... Interestingly, I watched the interview of the North Korean refugee.
Mm-hmm.
So this girl escaped, and she described that when she was there, she thought that the government is able to read her thoughts.
Oh.
So, and then she was actually censoring her thinking.
Not to think something wrong.
Well, and we see that North Korea is pretty stable the way
Society,
it is for, what is it, 70 years.
By the way, have you seen anybody just running along the street screaming its name and trying to show everybody his ID, or his or her ID? I never seen such people. Even the crazy people won't come in front of you and say, hey, my name is, for example, John Smith and here's my ID. Usually people are not doing that. So people know why privacy is important. And even if some random person comes to you and say, hey, what's your name? You might say, who you are? Like, who you are to asking me for my name? So this concept is not something unusual for the people. However, when the person touch digital, virtual world, lots of barrier in their mind got eliminated. And suddenly, I don't need the privacy in internet, let's call it, because I'm not doing anything wrong. Okay, cool. In a private life, you are not doing anything wrong. Hey, go and show your ID for each random person on the street. Nobody gonna do it.
Yeah, so we used to live, and still live, in the physical world, and we see that there is a danger if you see a person in front of you, and then anything can happen. So there is some sort of risk, and when you are in front of the computer screen, so it's not obvious that there is danger there, because there's no one around and it's just a piece of plastic, and
it lowers down the barriers in the mind.
So yeah, I'm going to finish the importance of privacy. That's my idea about the evolutionary. That's the case, and also the ideas and that changed the way the society is structured, and the societies change all the time. It was like the entire history is just a history of change. Some societies are like built on freedom and democracies, like the Western ones, and more or less people feel free to talk, to say what they want, even though right now we see this tendency of censorship. So there are more and more topics that you are not allowed to express your opinion, just like recently it was...
so many. It's indeed so many.
Yeah. So and then maybe the question, okay, if I'm just in the 80% that are normal and in the middle, so maybe I shouldn't care about the privacy. So my response to that is, like you're in the middle and you're normal right now, but everything is changing, so at some point you might be on the fringe. You might be outside of the norm if you don't change enough, and then all your ideas and whatever you were saying back at that time when it was normal, all of a sudden now they're not normal anymore and you're being attacked. And that happened in history many times, and especially if you're not in so friendly and free regimes.
That's even more important.
It's even more dangerous. And in those regimes, the governments try to control everything, so they want to know what people think, and they just eliminate the ideas that don't
suit enough.
Conform with them. So I don't know, maybe it's still too philosophical for anyone to kind of comprehend, but I think this is the base of the fundamentals of life itself and evolution.
Okay, too philosophical, cool. Let's touch then practic world. So all of a sudden, the person, if you're talking about Bitcoin, share with the whole world what it was sent to, which kind of transaction that person got, how much, when, how often. All this information is publicly available. So public does know only one thing: how was the person's name, date of birth, and picture. Those companies are trying to find out that. So what they do, they collect massive of information, running the scripts against or any algorithm that, based on a behavior, based on a logic of the transaction, find out and get all the pieces together.
You're talking about the blockchain surveillance companies, right?
Yes.
Like the Chainalysis and CipherTrace. And
yeah. And on top of that, if you have KYC, okay, the person is perfectly shown, clear and naked for the whole world. But if not, still, KYC is a business of exchange, right? Of bank. However, even if all the transaction happened without exchange involved, we again expose our device information.
Yeah, so one more thing, when people say if I don't do anything wrong, I have nothing to hide, I have an example. It's related to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is a global phenomenon. So if you have Bitcoin, you don't have it in one country. Well, that's kind of arguable. You can say that you have it in Canada or in the US or anywhere you are. And when you travel somewhere else, where's your Bitcoin? Is it always with you, or you left it in your home country? So technically, some countries can make Bitcoin illegal. And because of the global nature of Bitcoin, when you use it, you violate their laws. And all of a sudden, when you enter their jurisdictions, you are a criminal there. And yeah, maybe you can argue in court that, you know, my Bitcoin is in a different place, and they may argue it's like internet, it's everywhere. So
they can say, you know what, you make a crime, and we don't care where the crime was done. We catch you. That's what happened, and we're gonna prosecute you. So even if your crime has happened in another part of the world, still crime.
Maybe this is something you want to avoid.
Absolutely.
And if you think that maybe it's only the like tiny countries with weird dictators can ban
Not
Bitcoin.
so easy.
Just let me remind you that the United States in 1933 made possession of gold illegal, and everyone had to sell their gold at obviously low prices.
Even if that piece of gold has had at the time very high personal value, even in that case, yes, people had to.
Oh, well, I think they allowed to keep jewelry and some coins, but
the gold
majority of gold was basically confiscated. So yeah, this happens, and that can happen, and this is why you might want to keep the information about, at least about Bitcoin, private. So, and the obvious thing is just you don't talk about Bitcoin. You don't tell anyone how much Bitcoin you have or that you have it at all.
Oh, it's the basics. Yeah, you must keep. Don't talk too much. Right.
Yeah. So you were talking about the surveillance companies. This is basically what we started from. There are two types of information that you may leak in regards to your Bitcoin. The first one is on-chain transaction information. It stays there forever, and actually, this is a transaction I was interested to find a transaction that the first transaction where Bitcoin was sold for money. It's from October. So it's exactly what it is.
It was 2009, 11 years ago.
This is October 12, 2009. 11 years ago, and one guy sold 5,050 bitcoins for $5.02. And this transaction stays in blockchain forever. So 11 years later, we can see it and analyze it, and we can understand a lot of things from like what happened at that particular moment and where those coins went and where they came through. So like the 50 and 50 and 50, these are all the Coinbase transactions. So the guy was mining Bitcoin. Actually, at that time, everyone was mining. That there were no wallets that were not mining, but that's just the beginning. So we can clearly say that those are Bitcoins freshly minted, and then he combined them. And we also can say that they all belong to one person because they are in one transaction. So this person controls the private keys to all of the wallets, and this is the basic heuristics that blockchain analysis or surveillance or forensic companies do. So the one type of information is on chain that include your addresses. If you reuse address, and I know you send me bitcoins from one address and then you use it again, so I know this address belongs to you, and this is how I can collect information about it. UTXO consolidation. UTXO is
the mechanism how transaction works in a
so basically this would be a UTXO. So 50 bitcoins at that particular address it's called the unspent transaction output, and when they are consolidated, like in these transactions, we can say they all belong to one person. We can't say anything about that address, but all these addresses, they belong to one person. If we analyze further, click on different addresses and see if there's further consolidation, like for example this 800 bitcoins, we can see where they came from. And we also see this consolidation. Those addresses belong to the same guy that sold 5,050 bitcoins, and this is easy. And also you can leak information to wallets. Usually if you don't run your own node, and most people don't, so your wallet has to connect to someone else's node, to the Bitcoin database, and to check all the addresses from the wallet. So this information, well, the owner of the node has this information from you, and it has all of your addresses. There are some obfuscation techniques, but
yet,
if you do it often enough, there is some correlation. It's easy to figure out, and the IP address. So the node knows where was the IP address. Basically, it can be correlated to your name and the addresses. So this is all on chain information that you can leak, and also there is off chain information.
Let's count what we have on chain.
Yeah.
So we have address that belongs to a person, when and how it was spent, and on top of everything, we can technically see the IP address, which is pretty physical information right now.
Well, it's not on-chain IP address. It's
still related there,
but it's still possible. So the surveillance companies, they run a lot of Bitcoin nodes, or
25%, something like that, of the whole.
Yeah, so it's roughly that, and also they run a lot of servers for different wallets, like Electrum is one of them. And off-chain information that you can leak, that's actually IP addresses and off-chain information. And as I said, if you don't run your own node, you have to connect to someone, and if you don't run the wallet server itself, so you have to connect to someone else. Exchanges, they collect, actually
exchanges collect everything.
They collect your emails, ID, if you go through KYC, IP addresses, they know all of your transactions, maybe a bank account, and so the exchanges, they collect a lot of information about you. vendors, if you buy something, you pay with Bitcoin, the vendor knows your address.
Yeah, because they need to ship it there.
Yeah, so, and you obviously want, you never want to reuse this Bitcoin address again to the vendor. Preferably you just don't touch it ever.
I mean, again, nothing against the vendor, but why to give the rest of your transaction, the rest of your activities to the third person
first
you
of all,
never see?
This information will be hacked or leaked to the bad guys. Even
No
the
matter.
law enforcement can just ask to share, and they will. But also, eventually, it leaks to the hackers, and
We know
then
that perfectly.
someone's gonna knock on your door. Especially if they can correlate how many bitcoins you have, and
Then, yeah, they will come without cake but with something else.
So sometimes people publish their Bitcoin addresses online. That happens like for donations, for example.
Yeah.
And while I was researching this particular first transactions, and I was trying to figure out where it went, and in about like 5 or 10 hops, it ended up in an address containing 400,000 bitcoins, and I was curious, like, what can it be? So with further research, I found a few addresses of Mt. Gox from 2010, and actually the website doesn't exist anymore, but there is an archive, web archive, where they archive pages from the internet, and there were 3 or 4 different addresses by Mt. Gox. So I could correlate. So this information stays forever online, and you can nothing can be done about it. And another interesting like method or way you can leak your information, for example, if you use exchange. So good exchanges, they try to confirm when you want to withdraw from an exchange. They try to confirm that it's you. They send you a confirmation email with the Bitcoin address that you specified, so that Bitcoin address ends up in your email account, Gmail, any other email account, and Google can read it, or enforcement agencies can read it easily, or someone will hack your account and have this information. That's something that we don't really think about. It's supposed to be a security measure, but it can actually
expose certain private information to the people we don't want to.
It can do the wrong thing. So what can we do about it? So obviously, never reuse Bitcoin addresses. Bitcoin is designed in a way, especially right now with hierarchically deterministic wallets. Wallets manage all your addresses. You don't have to think about it. Never reuse Bitcoin addresses.
Reuse it. Never.
Never reuse. Just use address once. That's
once, and that's all.
UTXO consolidation. So, like, this is the consolidation when you need to send 800 bitcoins and you only have several addresses with 50. Then you combine, and it's obvious that all this 14 addresses, they belong to one person. You don't. And if, let's say, if one of those addresses is KYC'd from an exchange, so we know who controls all these addresses right now. So, and that's why it's preferable, well, it's good for privacy to use the wallet that allows you to select, it's called the coin control. You select the UTXOs or coins that you want to send. Like if you have KYC coins and non-KYC coins, so you don't want to mix them. So you just
keep them separate.
Most wallets don't do this. Most wallets, they just take whatever's there. Sometimes they take everything, consolidate, and send something, and the change goes back to you. So some wallets, they allow you to do so. Like I know Wasabi wallet and Samourai wallet, they're privacy oriented, and they also do the Coinjoin, which I'll explain a little later. Yeah, obviously run your own node so you don't expose your IP address to anyone, and you don't expose the addresses that you check in the balance into. And if you use Electrum or any other wallets that require a server, you can also run your own server.
Hey, you said build your own node, and I say, yeah, sure, no problem, I'll do it. What about everybody else on the planet? They can do it? Or, to be fair, I doubt. It's not like rocket science, but let's face it, it's not something easy.
It's not a rocket science. Anyone can do it for free. You just need a hard drive and a computer. It takes
Certain amount.
Yeah, it might take a couple of months.
If it's a week,
if the connection is slow, if your computer is slow, if maybe the hard drive is slow. So yeah, you can take some time. However, there are products on the market that you can buy a node already with interface, and you just buy it. It's the blockchain is there. You plug it in, and you run it.
How I would know that the person who created that nice node that I can buy from the internet didn't put any backdoor or anything wrong to steal my coin? Do I have anything, or I might want to go to somebody and ask for help?
The node is not a wallet itself. The node is just a database. Wallet is something separate. So the wallet would connect to the node to check the balances, and you just want to have the node in your possession, so you don't share the information with anyone.
These unknown ones.
I don't have an answer how you can verify that this particular node has the correct information about Bitcoin. However, you can always connect to other nodes and see
Verify
if the transaction match, and they have to match. The entire history of Bitcoin has to match because of how Bitcoin is built on cryptography. If it doesn't match, then it's not going to work. It's not going to update anymore. So yes, for wallets you install your own servers if needed, for Electrum, for Samourai. For off-chain, it's a good idea to never buy Bitcoins that are KYC, that you can attach your identity to your coins.
Obviously.
However, it's not possible or convenient for most people, so it's kind of peer-to-peer trade. You need to find someone, probably you do it with cash or something like that. The reality is that most of the coins are KYC'd. So what can be done after that, you can do the Coinjoin, mix your coins with others, and there are two wallets that I know, maybe there are more. So Wasabi does that, and it's a desktop wallet, and the Samourai wallet, it's a mobile wallet, and they do it. You keep your private keys throughout the process. They're non-custodian wallet, so it's a pretty neat thing, because before that you would have to send your Bitcoin to someone else, trust that they will send it back. Sometimes they just run away. And those wallets, Wasabi and Samourai, they allow you to control your coins. So you select which coins you want to spend. You know where you get this coin from, who has the information, and you can assess your risks and spend your coin. IP addresses, as I said, you use your own node. And actually Wasabi did the pretty good stuff. They achieved the maximum possible privacy on chain. They use Tor. The Tor doesn't leak your IP addresses. When they request the balances in every address, they connect to one node. They request one address, then they disconnect. They change the identity on Tor, and with different IP address they connect to a different node. So the nodes cannot correlate all the addresses to one user. That's pretty neat. With vendors, that's a tricky one. You probably want to have your address, like maybe you can send it to your office address, or
unless you want. Anyways,
post office or something like that. So that's nothing to do with Bitcoin. You just need to think how you can protect your home address. Well, published online. Don't publish your Bitcoin addresses online at all, not on social media, not anywhere else. If you need to accept donations, there is Bitcoin Pay server, It's a software that has your public key. It knows all of your addresses, but you control it actually. And for every transaction or every donation, it generates a new Bitcoin address. So it's impossible to correlate. That's a good idea. And also don't tattoo a Bitcoin address or QR code on your arm. That was somehow popular.
Yeah, probably not good
a few years ago. And well, with the emails, maybe use the PGP if some exchanges allow you to use PGP, but this is much more complicated than just using Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's a big inside story. Okay, we still can talk about wallets on mobile devices, but I guess it's another long conversation and how you protect privacy against such a stuff.
Yeah, so I just want to show you how the blockchain surveillance companies work. So, and this is the graphical representation, and this is the transaction of those 5,050 bitcoins that were sold first. So we see all of these nodes with an arrows coming in,
and the big arrow goes out,
and one big arrow goes, well,
yeah, I don't see anything outgoing except that one, to be fair.
Yeah, and we can trace where it went further. No, it's pretty cool. Visualization of the transactions. So and you can see the fat arrows means that's the majority of bitcoins in the transaction.
So we have an address that collects so many.
Yeah. So this. So it's also the consolidation. So this 5,050 bitcoins were sent, and they were consolidated with
another one,
with a lot of freshly minted bitcoins. Yeah, 50 bitcoins here, and then there was one transaction from this one, and if we click, yeah, let's just check another one. So with this type of tools, and this is, by the way, oxt.me is the blockchain forensic tool built by Samourai World, actually.
Oh.
And this is open to anyone. They don't charge anything. They don't collect any information about you, and it's recommended, actually. They recommend to connect it with the Tor browser, so you don't leak your IP addresses. So they don't want to know, and you can see where your coins coming from and if your transactions leaked any information about you. So that can also be represented in standard way with inputs and outputs. And also what they do, they consolidate all the addresses and they create so-called like wallets. When there is a consolidation process just like this, they combine it into one wallet and they say, yeah, this wallet contains like 50 different addresses. So there's a summary, and there's a bunch of useful information that you can explore. There's another one that I found. I haven't checked it fully what it does, but it looks like it's similar to oxt.me.
Well, so in a few words, summarization is, even if we are using the tool that admit to be anonymous as Bitcoin, still the information of us is being leaked. It's get recorded, and it might be interested for entities that we don't want to expose our information to.
Well, and the biggest problem that it stays there forever
and
on the blockchain and actually on the internet. Whatever's on the internet, it's stored somewhere. It's a permanent record, and 11 years from now, someone can
can
go
see.
back, or even 50 years, just
Yeah.
like we did with that transactions from 2009.
Absolutely.
So, and if you think there's no one cares about you right now, you're not doing anything wrong, you don't really know what's
never
gonna
know.
happen in
Yeah.
11 years.
You simply, the assumption is I'm safe because I'm thinking that I'm safe is wrong. It's not about how you think that about, it's how the others think about you.
Well, and another argument I've heard, like, whatever I do, I cannot fully protect myself and protect my privacy.
Sure.
Well, this thing, even incremental steps in protecting your privacy, they kind of protect you more than others. So, yes, nation states, there's no protection from that. They have unlimited budgets, they have everything that they need, and if you are the target of a nation state, nothing can be done. However, there are like random people, and they will attack anything that's the low-hanging fruit. Just
Because.
don't be low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
they see that they cannot easily attack you, then they go and try to steal bitcoins from someone else. That's
And I would add, if you don't know how to do it, ask the people who knows. Simple like that. You don't know how to protect yourself? There are people that know.
yeah.
Cool. Thank
Alex,
you.
any questions?
No.
All right, then we'll wrap up for tonight.
Yeah. Thank you, Dennis. Thanks, everybody.
And I wanted to talk next week. I wanted to talk about multi-signature wallets, and actually, like these are very narrow
Topic.
and very dangerous vulnerabilities that might be exposed, even when you use the hardware wallets. But we'll talk about that next week.
Next time. Yeah. So, see you next week.
Thanks and bye.